What's up, everybody? Jonathan Herrera here, talking to you from my recording studio in Oakland, California, Dime Studios. And I'm here to show you this really cool new pedal I got in the mail from Nordstrand Audio. It is the StarLifter preamp and DI pedal. And after talking with Carrie, I learned a couple things about this that I'd like to share with you before I go ahead and play it. First thing is, I know that the purpose of this pedal, I mean, there's so many preamp pedals out there. Why would you get this one? One of the central guiding principles for Carrie when he was designing this was to make the best sounding, most musical op-amp-based preamp pedal out there. Carrie used Burr Brown opamps, really high quality, well-regarded opamps. So that's one thing that makes this cool and makes it stand out from some of the other offerings in the bass side of things. It's more like a kind of studio grade pedal in that sense in preamp. So let me go through a couple of the features first, and then I'm going to play through it, and you guys can hear what it sounds like. So the StarLifter is a pretty straightforward layout. We'll start with the two buttons. So this one, I think, should be obvious to most of you. It's a mute switch. You hit it, a little red LED illuminates. Not sure how well that'll come out in this lighting, but red LED. Another very cool feature, which I know probably won't come out too well in this lighting, is that these side panels here illuminate red when it's muted. And when it's unmuted, they turn green. And when you hit engage, this LED goes green, and then these side things go green. Engage turns the EQ on and off, including the contour. The preamp is still amplifying, meaning the volume control. It's not a true bypass or anything. There's still the gain stage of the preamp. Engage, again, just turns the EQ on and off. So this volume control is always active. And it's a simple EQ, 3-band, obviously, with a semi-parametric mid-range. One thing you may notice, which was intentional, is you won't see any frequency or gain specs near any of these. And that was on purpose. And I tend to agree with Carrie on this. Carrie believes, and again, I agree, that you should use your ears as a guide. And you should just turn these knobs until you like the way it sounds. And by not having anything but the label for the frequency range that these bands cover, it kind of promotes that concept, which I appreciate. Then there's this contour area. The contour is a 3-position switch. So in the center position, you'll see this little line. That's to indicate that that's flat. When you push the switch up, it goes into a vintage curve. And so these are like preset EQ curves. And the vintage curve, to my ears, it's like a bass boost and a treble cut. You go to the modern, and it's kind of the inverse of that. It's more scoopy, kind of like the classic smiley face vibe. So quickly, let's take a look at the back panel where all the connection happens for the StarLifter. On the far left, you have the 1/4-inch unbalanced output. Next to that, you have an XLR balanced output for the DI. And that's accompanied by these 3 buttons. The first one is a -20 dB pad. That essentially changes this output from line level to mic level. If you want this to emulate a conventional DI box, you're going to engage that pad because typically a DI sends a mic level output. So it's very cool they included that feature. Pre-EQ taps the DI signal off of the preamp prior to it going through the EQ section. And a ground lift lifts the ground in case there's any ground loops that are inducing hum. You have the jack for the power supply, which a little unusually is a 12 to 15 volt AC supply. So no, your Boss, your one spot, those sorts of conventional DC power supplies aren't going to work with this. Next to that, we have a tuner output, which is parallel line level output to send to tuner, or you could use it as a parallel send. And then finally on the right-hand side, the input, that includes a 10 decibel pad for a particularly high output bass. I used this when I was using the StarLifter with the synth, because synths tend to be pretty hot. So I found that useful. And finally, there's a 10 megohm impedance button. So with the button out, it's a 1 megohm, which is already pretty high input impedance. And with it depressed, it's a 10 megohm input impedance. Why is that important? It's particularly important if you're using piezo pickups, like with an acoustic bass or an acoustic bass guitar. Those really like to see a high input impedance in order to provide the full frequency response. If you don't have that, it can still be useful if you have a passive instrument to use the high impedance. But either way, it's nice to have that facility on board. And I don't really know of another preamp, or there's very few preamps that I'm aware of that provide such a high input impedance. That's it. Let's listen to this thing now. So I decided to demo this in a couple different ways. First, I'm going to play and just play whatever and tweak at the same time, so you can get a sense of what the effect of the filters are in real time as I play. And then I recorded some tracks ahead of time, and I am going to reamp them through the pedal. So basically that's so that there's a control. So you'll hear the same exact part played, but with different EQ settings. So no variance in my technique or anything about my inability to play 100% consistently is going to affect what you hear. So I think that's probably the best way to demo this. But I also kind of want to just play in real time. So I'm going to play a bit. Right now the pedal is flat, and let's hear what that sounds like. And again, using this jazz bass because I think it's, you know, about as middle of the road an instrument as you're going to find. And it's a 66, so it sounds pretty good. Here we go. All right, let's try basting. Let's try boosting the bass a little bit. I'm gonna boost the mids, maybe like the lower mids, and try playing the bridge pickup here. Turn the tone down a little. Punchy. I like that sound. I'm going to add the vintage switch to that same sound. Kind of seem to round off the highs a little. Sounds good. All right, let's try a modern setting. Just the contour modern. See how that sounds. Maybe I'll slap. Oh, very different. Nice snap and sizzle to that. Let's boost the treble a bit, boost the mids, maybe just the neck pickup. Try that vintage switch again. I like that. Cool.